So there's a couple calls on the line. As soon as they're queued up, I'll get to them. As a reminder, in addition, you can go to the website. There's a frequently asked questions page and a number of other things as well. We don't have any super special events coming up in the next few weeks, but this idea that we talked about earlier about losing heroes, and then we have the caller about Zeitgeist, where this thing about building heroes is a fiction. My take on this, because we get asked all the time about this Jesus as a historical figure, is kind of along the lines of how do you define somebody? For example, George Washington, we have it on good authority that this individual existed. It would be absurd to find out that he didn't exist. However, it's not absurd to find out that the story about the cherry tree is nonsense, that this little bit of myth has been glommed on to a life, a real life, one that is as historically verifiable as almost anybody else's. So when you say Jesus existed, what do you mean? Do you mean Jesus, this character as represented in the Bible, who said the things that he's reported to have said and performed the miracles that he's reported to have performed, do you mean that individual existed? Because I see no reason at all to think that individual existed. What I have no problem with is the idea that there may have been and likely was, an individual or perhaps several individuals who lived around that time whose life story had mythic elements glommed onto. Now, whether or not
and this
those
happens
were
all the time.
Yeah, whether or not those were borrowed from other traditions or not doesn't equate to a conspiracy. But the people who would claim, and it's just nonstop, that the Bible, as one of the early callers did, Kent Hovind and Ray Comfort can demonstrate scientifically that the Bible is true. No, they can't. No, they can't. There's not a single extra biblical contemporary account of any event from the life of Jesus. That, added to the fact that some of the things the Bible claims are clearly wrong, although apologists will try to spin them in a number of ways, means that we really can't say with any good reliability that this figure did exist. If every element of what we package together as the person is something that is questionable, virgin birth, what? Walking on water, what? The words, which don't necessarily match, which we don't have originals of, which we have no, good reason to think are anything other than sayings and stories, and the fact that they may have come from other written traditions. What exactly is it that you're saying existed? That's the important point. And I'm not sitting up here saying, Jesus never existed, that's nonsense, you shouldn't worship that, that's below wall, what's wrong with you? That's not the way this works. I'm simply saying that, even if he did exist, there's no evidence.
But I am here saying the angel Moroni never existed. So let's not give the impression that because we're willing to accept that there may well be an historical basis for the Jesus character in the Bible, that therefore we think that there's a bit of truth behind every single piece of religious mythology that anybody cares to describe to us.
And remember, you can't have Moroni without moron. But we've got Michael in St. Louis.
Hello.
Michael, you there?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Good. By the way, I think you guys should change the background. This one's kind of boring.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of this one either.
Can't win. Try something else, guys. Experiment.
Anyway, my question is about the word atheist, because a lot of shows like this one are using the word atheist, and I'm wondering if you think it's kind of a misnomer, since people like Buddhists don't believe in God, yet they have all sorts of superstitious or what you would consider irrational beliefs.
So that makes the word atheist a misnomer? What do you mean?
Well, because basically the show is all about, believing in evidence and rationality. And
dude,
atheist doesn't really have anything to do with that. Atheist just means I don't believe in a God.
I would love for that to be true, but I'd be the first to admit that it's not. You ever heard of Raelians?
Yes.
Raelians are atheists. They don't believe in a God. What they do believe in are space aliens. And not just in general. I believe it's incredibly likely that there's other intelligent life in space, but I don't believe they've been here, that they seeded life on Earth, and all this other nonsense that the Raelians believe. But I cannot deny that they're atheists. They are. Atheist is not some term that, if it applies to you, that means you're perfectly rational about everything. Wish it were true. It's not true.
So what I'm saying is, shouldn't you come up with a different word? Like, I've heard people use the word.
If we came up with some word that meant we're like the perfectly rational people, we couldn't use it because we're not perfect.
Well, not perfect, but what about the word pluralist?
Who?
Like
pluralist.
Have you
heard from Thunderfoot?
Pluralist stands for physical evidence and reason logic.
Yeah,
it's people who don't have any superstitions or anything like that.
Yeah, and before that there was bright. And
any of those.
Yeah, those are all perfectly fine terms for the subset of people that those terms apply to. It doesn't make atheist a misnomer. We'd still be atheists.
It's almost like calling a Christian someone who believes in the Holy Spirit.
It'd be calling a Christian a theist. A Christian is a theist because they believe in a God.
See, here's the problem. Yes, we're not just on this show to talk about atheism. As a matter of fact,
there's not much to say about atheism.
We are, though, atheists, and we are here talking about reality. We are talking about whatever God or religion the caller happens to talk about. We also happen to be, Jeff and I, skeptics, rationalists.
Yep.
I'm
a bright. Are you a bright?
I could be a bright. I fit the category for bright. I just don't like using it. There are any number of labels that might fit me. Bright, humanist, secular, rationalist, skeptic, atheist. I use the atheist label primarily because it's the one that gets that addresses the issue that I find most important. For example, within the whole community of skeptics, not everybody is a theist, is an atheist. There's a subset of skeptics that are atheists. And it's fine that there are skeptics who don't care at all about the religious issue. They focus on homeopathy or psychic claims or whatever else. That's fine. It's all good stuff, and I applaud them. And I go to TAM, and I am friends with skeptics, and I am a skeptic. I am focused on this subset. For example, not all atheists are skeptics. So whatever that overlapping subset is, that's what I'm focused on. But I fit both categories. There's no reason for me to pick either label over the other. I just do.
Yeah, I think it's more important that for everybody to understand what the terms mean, and so that when they're used, you know what's being said, than it is to find some perfect magical term that will exactly specify the particular tiny subgroup you want to fall into.
And I've got a Venn diagram that you won't be able to see. There's a circle right here, and it's theist. Everything outside is, according to the definition that I use.
Mr. Camera's trying to zoom in.
That's I can't see it at all.
Yeah,
it's zooming in. There.
Everything that's not anyone that's not a theist is an atheist. That's the definition I'm using. But the reason I do that is because the theism is the objectionable part. As a skeptic, I am bringing to light the fact that theistic claims are not supported by evidence. They are not rational. They are not scientific, and there is no reason for anybody to believe them. And even if an individual could perhaps be justified by their own experience, there is no reason for anyone else to be convinced, and there's certainly no reason for any of us to kowtow to the claims of people in this theistic category. There's no reason for special treatment. There's no reason for deference. There's no reason to worry about saying, oh, we shouldn't talk about that for fear that we might offend the crazy people. We don't do that with any other unproven category. Religion is the exemption. And yet religion, theism and religion encompass the majority of the planet and have for the majority of our history. And this is where the majority of the potential and actual harm, I feel, is coming from. And that's why I'm focused on this area. I could do a skeptic show, but it would be unfair because I am I'm focused more on this one issue. And so I use the atheist label.